This time I'm going to show you how to put the pattern inside the shape, and I know we've done this on previous education sets, but I think it's really important that we refresh, because sometimes we forget and then you've got to go scrolling and find the right bit. So we'll just do it again. So I've brought on the pattern, and the first thing I'm going to do is divide this. So that's important. So I'm going to go to edit and divide. You can save it as a divided pattern once you've done it once, but for the sake of the education, I'm just going to do it again. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to get rid of all this waste bit and put that in the bin. And then I'm going to bring this in. Now I'm going to bring on my shape, and I'm going to make it to the shape that I want for my card shape to be. So you can see how many options, possible options you would have with this, just this shape alone and this pattern. It's phenomenal, really. So I'm going to, now I've got the shape that I want, I'm just going to make it bigger. And you need to make sure that it fits within that pattern, okay? Otherwise you'll end up with funny looking corners. We don't want funny looking corners. So I'm just going to make it slightly smaller. There we go. You can also make the pattern bigger as well, don't forget. So you could scale this up if you wanted to. And I'm just going to move that out of the way so I can grab this shape. And then you could make your card shape bigger. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it, but horses for courses, I guess. Whatever you want to do. It might be that you're doing something on a scrapbook page and you want it to be bigger, so you can do that too. Right, so the first thing I want to do is just duplicate that shape a couple of times. I might not use all of them, but I'd rather have them than have to go back and undo all the time. So once you've got your divided pattern and you've got your shape, you need to make sure that your shape is behind your pattern. So it naturally is now. If I try and grab that middle section, it gives me all the points that that pattern is made up of, and we don't want that. But it's also an indicator that this shape is behind it, okay? And that's really important. So then you're going to drag a box around all of it, and you're going to go to edit, and you're going to go to remove overlapped. And what this will do is it will put that pattern inside that shape, okay? So this stays complete, and this becomes your card shape. So then you could use that on the front of your card, and that would cut in. That would look absolutely fabulous, I have to say. In fact, I'm going to do some finished samples like that now. I've just thought about that. It's interesting, isn't it? When you do the same thing over and over again, sometimes you find other little things and you're like, oh, that'd look lovely in the middle of maybe the sports one. You know, if you've got footballs and rugby balls and that kind of thing, you could make the shape of the pattern that's cutting into your card reflect that imagery. And this is where your cards start to look more and more professional. So this, even though it's got all the pattern in it, is exactly the same size as this shape here. So what we need to do is create an outward offset line if we want to cut it out. So we're going to go to edit, and we're going to go to offset line. I'm going to create a 4mm outward offset line and delete the original, because I've got another duplicated one, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to do that, and then I can put that directly in the middle of there. So I drag a box across both of them, go to edit and align centrally vertically, edit centrally horizontally. This is when you realise that scan and cut is really repetitive, because the number of times I've said that already in this education is a lot. but it's so easy to pick up then. So then I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to divide this, because I then want to weld one into the middle of it, okay? So it's not that you can just weld and create apertures when you've got the complete pattern. You can do it when you've done it into a shape as well. So I'm going to bin that, grab that bit and bin that. And then I've got my card shape. So I'm going to duplicate this again. So I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to duplicate it again twice. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I created a 4mm. So this time I'm going to create an 8mm offset line. So I'm going to go to edit and create an 8mm outward offset line and delete the original. So now that can become my card blank. So I would cut two of those, put a score line across the top of the back one and glue it to the second solid one, and then my pattern would go on top. If you wanted another one, you could absolutely continue and make as many matte layers as you want to, which is super cool. So now I've got that, I've got my card blank and I've got my patterned panel. So I'm going to move my card blank. I'm going to get rid of this pattern because we don't need this anymore. And gives me a little bit more space to work in. So that's my card blank. This is my pattern. I'm now going to create an inward offset line to weld to the middle of here. Okay, so I'm going to go to Edit and Offset. And let's go quite big here. Let's create a, let's see what 17 millimeters look like. I've no idea what it's going to look like, but we can try it. I want it inward because I want it smaller, and I want to delete the original one. There you go. So now this is still perfect all the way around because we're creating inward offset lines. We're not changing the size, okay? But once you've changed that, you can then make that smaller because you started it as an inward offset line. It will stay perfectly. It will work perfectly. So if you resize an original shape, it looks different. It's not mathematically correct all the way around. If you create an offset line and resize the offset line, it stays mathematically correct because you're working from the correct starting point. So if I edit and align that centrally vertically and edit and align it centrally horizontally, it's exactly the same width all the way around that shape. So now what I could do is duplicate that one so I don't have to remember what size I did it in the first place. And now I can weld those two together. So I can go to Edit and Weld, and that will give me a solid panel. So now I've got a shape. Now if I want an aperture, I can bring in that duplicated shape. I can go to Edit. I can create a, let's do a 4 millimeter inward offset line and delete the original. And then that is going to fit perfectly in the middle of there. So then I can drag a box around both of those, go to Edit and align centrally vertically, Edit centrally horizontally. If I had £1 for every time I said that, I could probably buy an island in the middle of the Caribbean and live there for the rest of my life. Because I say it so many times, but that's what I mean about it being repetitive. Now, I want to punch that through this. So I go to Edit and Divide. And then I can move that, and I've now got a perfect frame. Now, if you were buying this as a die, that's going to cost you a lot of money. If you bought them two, so let's say we did it 8x8, and then you bought one at 6x6, you've probably paid for the price of your USB. And you can keep going with this USB over and over and over again. If you got the first Cardmaker's Compendium, you could weld one of those card shapes to one of these card shapes. So you end up with thousands and thousands and thousands of options. And I love that because then you can create the project that you've got in your head rather than the project that's dictated to by the tools that you own. And that for me is completely freeing. And I love that. I love that fact that I'm now the creator. I'm not creating from something that somebody else has created, even though we kind of are because you've got the patterns to start with. But where you can take that is just immense. And that's when you get incredible value for money when you're buying a USB. Yes, I know you've got to invest in one of these, and I will never shy away from the fact that that is a considered purchase. But once you've got it, my word, it will save you a fortune long term, and it gives you all that creativity as well, and it just keeps giving. So that's how you put a pattern inside one of the card shapes. You can do exactly the same with any of the shapes that are inside the machine's memory. You can put it inside letters if you want to. So just have a really good play around. Set yourself aside a weekend where you've got nothing else to do and you just sit and play in Canvas Workspace. Because believe you me, you will never exhaust this. And it's a free resource. So why would you not want to? Don't be scared. I was. Now I love it and I use it all the time. It's super simple. Use the web app version on a PC because every time you hover over it, it tells you what the icon does, and you will soon get to this level, and hopefully this education will help you along that path. So that's how we do all those little bits and pieces with our patterns. And if you come back in a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to create a sentiment, like a banner, if you like, in Canvas Workspace as well. So I'll see you in a minute. If you want to see more from Highlight Crafts, make sure you click the like button. Subscribe by clicking the subscribe button below, and click the bell icon to receive notifications of all our future content. You can also click here to see our latest video, or click here to see more videos like this one.